Consider the distance between an ancient silver shekel weighed in a desert sanctuary and the mechanical grind of an industrial gear. One measures the sacred status of a dedicated life. The other calculates the extraction of human sweat. Both are tools attempting to capture something entirely invisible. Value is a completely abstract quality. It has no physical mass, no shape, and no reality in the material world until it undergoes a specific translation. That process of taking an invisible, inherent worth and giving it a tangible, real-world form is called externalization. The specific mechanism a society chooses to externalize worth is never just an economic variable. It is a precise map of its deepest commitments regarding what it means to be human. To accurately decode any human system, we have to isolate and examine the exact methods it uses to drag human worth out of the abstract and into the physical. The ancient legal and ritual framework of Israel presents one extreme of this process. The operating premise of Leviticus is that human value is an ontological given. It is bestowed top-down by God, existing entirely prior to any human action, production, or market dynamic. A different framework emerges centuries later in the 19th century critique of political economy. Here, value contains no inherent divinity. It is constructed entirely bottom-up, generated exclusively through the mechanical, biological output of human labor. We are looking at two totally incompatible architectures of reality. One measures a divine decree, the other measures human exertion. Resolving the tension between these two ledgers requires a third category altogether, the theology of the Incarnation. To accurately measure the weight of Christ's redemption, we first have to assemble and pull apart these opposing machineries of value. We map the Levitical model. Value's origin is absolute, a given, divine property. Because worth is inherently present, human effort cannot manufacture it. The ritual codes exist strictly as a mechanism, forcing infinite, unmeasurable worth into physical, finite space. This mechanism is highly specific in Leviticus chapter 27, which outlines the rules for dedicating a human life to the Lord through a sacred vow. To externalize the worth of that dedicated life, the system prescribes fixed monetary equivalents. The text permanently sets the valuation for a male between 20 and 60 years old at exactly 50 sanctuary shekels. This 50 shekel price is not a wage calculation. It is completely disconnected from the man's physical strength, economic productivity, or capacity for labor. Instead, the silver acts as a standardized proxy, making the sacred status physically actionable. The output of this entire structure is the maintenance of holiness and the stabilization of the community's relationship with God. By using fixed silver equivalents, Leviticus externalizes value to bind a finite people to an infinite creator, simultaneously acknowledging that the underlying spiritual debt is impossible to actually pay. Now we build the parallel ledger. Here, the materialist starting point is inverted. Value only exists when generated from scratch by human biological energy. The mechanism for externalizing this energy is production, solidified into a commodity and quantified by socially necessary labor time. This is the precise mechanical process dissected in Karl Marx's Capital. The friction in this system occurs at the exact moment of externalization. Making this value tangible requires separating the worker from the object they just spent their life force to create. The capitalist pays the worker for a fraction of their expended energy and appropriates the rest. The system relies entirely on the continuous extraction and accumulation of this surplus value. The direct human consequence is alienation. The worker's creativity is objectified into capital, wielding economic power against them. The output of this architecture is systemic estrangement. Marx maps a reality where human creative power is externalized strictly for profit, weaponizing a person's time and energy against them, and reducing their inherent dignity to a consumable input. Look at the completed architecture side by side. Their mechanisms of externalization are entirely hostile. One relies on a fixed proxy for sacred status. The other demands mathematical extraction of labor time. Their endpoints are equally divergent: integration into a holy covenant versus inherent alienation. It forces a strict choice about human worth. Does it derive from a top-down divine decree or bottom-up material production? Ultimately, neither framework provides absolute liberation. Leviticus relies on symbolic silver to approximate a spiritual debt that finite humans cannot clear, while materialism traps human energy in continuous, exploitative loops. Both systems leave the human subject in a state of deficit, either burdened by an unpayable sacred debt or stripped of dignity by a predatory market. Escaping this deadlock requires an externalization of value that addresses both our spiritual status and our physical reality. In the person of Jesus Christ, the abstract becomes tangible. As God incarnate, he is the image of the invisible God, the full physical manifestation of divine worth. This reality overwrites both prior frameworks. Christ fulfills the Levitical shadow by offering a perfect, sinless life. His sacrifice is the final, once-for-all externalization of infinite atoning value. The 50 sanctuary shekels in Leviticus 27 only symbolically approximated this debt. Christ's sacrifice actually satisfies it. He concludes the ongoing requirements of the ancient ritual system by supplying a concrete reality that far exceeds its temporary material shadows. At the same time, Christology resolves the materialist trap diagnosed by Marx by healing the foundational separation between the worker and the value they create. Marx observed that the worker is alienated because their creative power is stolen and turned into a hostile object. By uniting the divine nature with human labor and suffering, Christ restores the inherent dignity of human activity. We are no longer inputs for the extraction of surplus value. We are the primary objects of divine valuation. The architectural outcome of this perfect externalization is a restored community. True human worth refuses to be confined to either ledger. It cannot be reduced to a fixed val price in a desert tabernacle, nor can it be captured by the spectral mathematics of alienated sweat. Value is ultimately an inherent gift. Perfectly incarnated in Christ, it liberates humanity from both unpayable spiritual debt and continuous material exploitation.